We'll try to show you how you can use AI in Flow, try to inspire you a little bit and show you some nice examples of Flow. So we have an agenda like this, a little bit of an introduction to AI and Flow, and then show you some examples of what you can do, and then Greg will run a cool demo for you. So the first two parts there will go pretty fast, sorry for that. A lot of slides in a short time, and then we will spend a little bit more time on the demo. But Flow and AI, like what is that? What can you do with AI? So maybe we can start with when AI doesn't make sense. When shouldn't you use AI in a Flow application? It's typically like this, like you have an application, what you typically have, it's a lot of logic, it's a clear logic, it's repetitive, you want an exact outcome every time you run it many times, it's a button, click, and you run something. AI really doesn't make sense in that scenario, and we have hundreds of use cases like this, right? So, but this is a type of AI, right? It's logic. It's also intelligence, because you did it. It's intelligent logic. But when AI, when we talk about AI, we have a huge potential when we use AI. When we have the right use cases, that's a huge potential, and you can do a lot of cool stuff. You probably saw it yesterday a little bit. So when we think about the apps of the future, what do we mean then? I think what we mean is like we have AI, we will use AI more and more in the apps, but of course we will have the logic part as well in apps. So depending on the use case, you will have like a little bit of AI and a lot of logic, or you will have a little bit of logic and you will have a lot of AI. But you will always have those two components in your apps. And we can provide those tools for you. We can provide what you need in order to build these type of intelligent apps. But you need to still bring the creativity. That's still a human thing, I think, to bring creativity. That's your part of this. But when you have that, you can build amazing apps using AI. And when we talk about AI apps, we can divide those into three categories. First is the data-driven ones. When you want to make sense out of a lot of data, you have a lot of data, you need to analyze it, you maybe need to transform the data, you need to do some changes, maybe filtering the data. You need to understand your data. That's one type of app. The other type of app is the document or vision-driven apps, where you have unstructured data that you want to run and understand. You want to make knowledge out of your unstructured data. That could be documents, it could be images, it could be voice. And the third type is agents that we can see. And then you want to actually do something. You want this agent to be able to understand and complete something all by itself. And that is where Greg will show you later how you can do that. That's really cool when we can get there. For that, we need like a goal. The agent needs to understand what it's supposed to do. We need some content, like the data. We need the brain, which would be the AI, the LLM, probably. You need a memory to be able to iterate and improve your results. And you, of course, need some tool to do this. You need to be able to read from a system. You need to be able to write, execute something. And we can combine that into agents. So if we just quickly go through the first two parts, and then we'll show the second part, or the third part, in real life. So for data, you can use any type of LLM. You can use any type of AI service to manage data. You can super easily connect it to Flow. You can use it as it is in Flow. That's not difficult. But to make it even easier for you to use, we're introducing two services, data services, that we can plug into Flow. So the first one that we're offering is the data assistant, where you will be able to kind of work with data, transform data, manipulate data, harmonize data in different ways. And the second one is the analysis assistant, where you can where you can make sense of all this data. You can ask queries directly from the data. You can get the data from any database ERP system that you have. So you can actually be on top of it. It's like an AI, BI thing. It's a bit confusing, but something like that. So that's something that we try to include, be a native part of the product. And I think that we have like two tracks here. One is the things that we build into the product, and the other track is like, what can you use of existing AI? So that's also what we will show you. This is a pretty good example of what you can do with these two type of services, where you have like the data assistant and the analysis. So working with parts data is a very good example where AI makes sense, where you can, for example, find and remove duplicate parts. So you want to have the data assistant to normalize the data, to have everything stringent and the data looks the same. And then you want to analyze it to find your duplicates, and then you can suggest what parts to remove. And then going back a few steps, like doing this combination of AI and logic, this is how it would look. You have a workflow, a process where you use both AI steps like that, and you use logic steps to process whatever comes out of the AI. And then at the end, you have someone to verify and to execute. And the perfect use case for this is, of course, then the parts quality, parts data quality. The second example, or the second category, when we work with documents, we have also a pretty good use case where you have supplier invoices that you want to turn into something structured in your ERP system, IFS or M3. So you have this PDF, and you want to automatically turn that into something in your ERP that is correctly set up. You have the correct postings, you have the correct approval routings, and so on. So we've done this, actually. It's not that difficult, actually, to set this up using the tool that is out there. So we've done this. We have a solution for this. Where we can take this, you have the supplier invoice here. We turn that into data using AI, and then it's just normal workflows. And then you can create the supplier invoice from that. And we use something called Azure Document Intelligence for this. It's out of the box, it's there, you can use it today. There's a lot of different types of models, pre-built models that you can use for this to understand unstructured data, documents, images, whatever. Easy to use and easy to plug into Flow. This is another old but still cool example with the cookies, where we can detect bad cookies, and we can do something in your system whenever we detect a bad cookie. It's super useful for any type of quality use case, where you want to find quality issues in parts that you produce. It's also widely used. I mean, there's a lot of companies using this already, but typically they're not connected to any system. So you want to connect it, and you do want to do something with this information. And we have a bonus also for you a little bit. So we're working also with a second thing, like it's a second introduction here. So we want to build something for you where you can migrate easily from IFS 10 to IFS Cloud, using AI to understand what did you do in IFS 10, what does this cogwheel do in IFS 10 based on the PL SQL code you have, and how should we do the same thing in IFS Cloud. There's a goal. Lukas and his team is working with this, so we're saying we want to automate at least 50 to 80% about this, and the rest is up to you to kind of actually figure out. But the cool stuff here, the cool thing is this part, I think, because that's also, regardless of ERP, you can build something. We can build something where we actually understand the APIs. You can write what you want to do in IFS Cloud in natural language. And then we can turn that into OData calls to IFS to actually execute what you want to do. Okie dokie. So let's go to agents and how to create an agent in Flow, Greg.
So my turn. I've got two quick demos. I'm not sure how practical they are, but hopefully they'll give you an idea of how you can integrate Flow apps with AI. The first one, let's just jump in here. This is a pretty simple one, similar to what Wukash showed yesterday. So all we're doing here is kind of filling out a form with some help from the AI. So it's a single request that we make to an AI model. We get a response back in a structured way, and we do something with that response. In this case, it's creating a service request. So this one's video. Next one will be live, though. Right, so there's the request to the AI. It comes back with some content, structured content. So we asked for a certain format, and we use that content to create a service request. So that's a pretty simple one request, one response. So the one I'm going to attempt to show live here. Hopefully this will go okay. This one is a shop floor reporting app. And the idea here is we're just trying to kind of navigate this app with some help from the AI. So we'll jump in here, and this is many more back and forth requests, so kind of a chat session with the AI, but all from a Flow application. So if this works while I'm on mic, I'm going to try to use the voice input, and we'll just ask a question here. What kinds of things can you help me with? Right, and now we're going to make a request off to the AI again. We're going to get this response back. In this case, just simple text. Right, so the AI has no idea what we're trying to do with this app yet. It's just responding to what I asked. So we'll get a little more specific here and say, show me the open operations. So what just happened there is I have, behind the scenes, prompted the AI, and I've told it that if the user wants to see the open operations, you need to prompt for a work center before you can do that. So it has now come back to me and said, what work center am I working in? We've kind of dynamically built a little pick list here, so I will say it's work center 1, and then we'll go next. And then we go off and get some shop order operations from IFS in this case. So to be clear, the AI is not going and getting those operations. We're doing that in Flow. But we got some structured feedback from the AI telling us what the user wanted to do. So our Flow app knows that the user's trying to see the list of operations, so we go get those and then return them to the user. I will go ahead and grab this extrusion one. And we'll do one more operation here. I'll just say approve operation. When I say next, what I'm doing is I'm sending the AI some information from Flow that what operation the user selected, and I'm telling the AI that I want to approve it. Again, it's been prompted to know that it needs some input here, so it wants to know how many items we're actually approving. We'll say 1,000 here. And in this case, this particular operation, we have kind of a rule built into our app that says we need to capture some quality data before we can approve this. And just for a quick example here, I'm going to put in some results that are out of spec. We'll say 11 and 8. Let's take a photo. We'll get a really awful selfie here. That's perfect. So we'll submit those results. And in this case, again, this part is not really AI. It's just another feature within the Flow app. It just generates a quick non-conformance report because I entered some values that were outside of spec. So I'll bring this up. Right, and you can see very simple report that it has generated based on the problem I had, and clearly there's something wrong when you see the code. All right, so let's dive in a bit to, close that out. Let's dive in a bit to how we implement this stuff. Moving forward. Oh, I didn't want to play. So we've seen that. So the basic setup, and let's see if the pointer works. So this section over here, we'll start on the right of this picture. So we are hosting, in this example, actually both examples that we gave, we are hosting our own model. We're using the Azure OpenAI, the AI Foundry to do that. In our case, it's GPT-4o that we're hosting. There's nothing about this that's tied to Azure. You could do this on other platforms like Hugging Face or AWS. Lots of places you can host models. We're doing it with Azure. When we put it in Azure, it automatically creates an API endpoint for us. Right, so that makes things relatively easy. It gives us the endpoint information as well as how to authenticate, which means we can start creating REST API calls from Flow to access that endpoint. And what we're using in our case is this responses API. I'll talk a bit about that in a minute. But that's how we built these little sample apps. Aside from that, the rest of it's just normal Flow. So it's a Flow app and a normal, I'll show you a bit about how the application looks. But it's just making REST web service calls and getting responses back from the AI. All right. So this responses API, this is nothing to do with Novacura specifically. This is OpenAI stuff. It's a new API that they released back in March, so just as of this year. Won't go into a ton of detail. I think the thing that makes this particular type of API most useful from Flow is the third item here, the structured and predictable output. So what I can do is I can provide a JSON schema, and I can tell the AI to respond using that schema. Right, so I kind of tell it, in my case, we were using a concept of intents, like what is the intent of the user? And I can tell the AI to put that intent in a specific field once it's determined what the user's intent is, like showing operations or something similar. And what that allows us to do is then from the Flow, we can easily parse JSON. That's a super simple thing to do in FlowScript now. And then we can make some decisions in our app based on what the AI has told us about the user's intent. There's some other nice features here called function calling. So we can actually to some extent jump out to external systems, files that we've loaded or whatever to pull additional information. So lots of power in this OpenAI responses API. And then the last bit I'll show is just a little screenshot of the application itself. So this is the shop floor reporting one that we walked through. The main bits of this are this intent assistant. So that's a component that I created. And basically what it does is just a little loop. It keeps prompting the user, going back and forth between the user and the AI until the AI understands what the user is trying to do. And it has all the parameters that it needs for that action. So just kind of looping through that chat cycle until we know this is what the user wants. And then we get a simple decision step coming out of that. So once the AI has determined the user's intent, we just make a decision, what is it that the user's trying to do, and we go down the right path to execute that action. So I think that's my demo session. Very happy, this stuff I think is pretty exciting to work with, so very happy to answer questions or have some discussions if you guys are interested. All right, thank you everyone, appreciate it.
Thank you very much.